If 100 B-21s are all the US has, is Washington really prepared for a grinding air war with Iran? Pentagon admits it needs 100 more bombers. How badly were US air power plans overstretched in the Iran war, and how will Trump's Air Force cope if the war resumes? Washington rushes to bulk up the B-21 fleet as Iran turns up the heat. Is the Pentagon in panic mode as peace talks stall? Meanwhile, Trump's forces will soon short on over 2,000 Tomahawk cruise missiles. What happens when the missile stockpile finally runs out amid war fears? The U.S. Air Force now plans to expand its B-21 Raider stealth bomber fleet to around 200 aircraft, doubling the original goal of 100, according to defense reports. This shift comes after the Pentagon acknowledged that a fleet of just 100 B-21s may be insufficient for future wars, especially against heavily defended adversaries such as Iran and China. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth recently warned that America would need a lot more B-21s, signaling internal concern over the current long-range strike inventory. Air Force Lieutenant General David Tabor confirmed that officials are reworking the B-21 program of record to reflect higher procurement numbers. The revised acquisition target for B-21 bombers is expected to show up formally in the fiscal year 2028 U.S. defense budget request. The B-21's Raider is designed to replace both the aging B-1B Lancer and the B-2 Spirit, consolidating the U.S. long-range stealth bomber fleet into a single platform. Defense analyses say the B-21 will also play a central role in America's modernized nuclear triad, providing a stealthy, flexible nuclear delivery option. The drive to buy more B-21s accelerated after the US and Israel launched their joint war against Iran, exposing gaps in deep strike capacity. During Operation Midnight Hammer, the US leaned heavily on its small B-2 Spirit fleet to conduct repeated long-range strikes into Iran. B-2 stealth bombers were used to hit high-value Iranian nuclear and missile facilities, stressing aircraft availability and sortie generation. These operations highlighted how few penetrating stealth bombers the U.S. currently has for a prolonged high-intensity conflict. At present, the U.S. Air Force operates only 20 B-2 Spirit bombers, limiting the number of simultaneous missions it can sustain. Only a portion of these B-2s is typically combat-ready at any time, because many are in maintenance or upgrades due to the aircraft's complexity. Rising anxiety over China's rapid military buildup is another major factor pushing the U.S. toward a larger B-21 fleet. Chinese long-range missiles are increasingly able to threaten U.S. bases and aerial refueling tankers across the Pacific, undermining traditional power projection. U.S. officials argue that any future war in the Indo-Pacific would demand massive long-range strike capacity, making additional B-21s a strategic priority. The U.S. Navy is facing a looming shortfall in Tomahawk cruise missile capacity just as planners fear a renewed large-scale war with Iran could demand heavy opening strikes. This gap arises because the Navy's Ohio-class guided missile submarines, SSGNs, are nearing retirement after more than 4 decades of service. Each Ohio-class SSGN can carry up to 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles, giving the United States a massive, covert undersea strike magazine for the opening phases of a conflict. These submarines can unleash large, precision missile salvos from underwater, hitting key enemy targets early while remaining hidden from detection. The U.S. Navy currently operates 4 such Ohio-class guided missile submarines, which together represent a major share of America's long-range conventional firepower at sea. However, all 4 SSGNs are scheduled to retire in the coming years, mainly due to aging hulls and growing maintenance burdens that make continued operation difficult. Once removed from service, their retirement would strip 616 Tomahawk missiles from the U.S. Undersea Strike Force on paper. Combined with the planned retirement of its Ticonderoga-class cruisers, the U.S. Navy is on track to lose launch capacity for roughly 2,080 Tomahawk cruise missiles. This combined loss would create a pronounced drop in America's long-range, sea-based conventional missile firepower until replacements fully arrive. The Ohio-class SSGNs are widely regarded as the most powerful conventional strike submarines ever fielded, given their large missile load and flexibility. They can stay hidden underwater for long periods while delivering repeated, large-scale Tomahawk salvos against land targets. In addition to strike missions, these submarines also support covert Navy SEAL and special operations, using their size and payload to carry commandos and equipment. The submarines were originally built in the 1980s as ballistic missile boats and later converted, and they are now over 40 years old. Aging nuclear reactors and rising maintenance needs are the main drivers behind the decision to remove them from service. New Virginia-class Block V attack submarines, equipped with an added missile compartment, are expected to partially take over the SSGN's role. However, each Virginia Block V can hold only about 40 Tomahawk missiles, far fewer than a single Ohio-class SSGN. In practical terms, the Navy would need roughly 3 Virginia-class boats to match the Tomahawk load of 1 Ohio-class guided missile submarine. U.S. officials and analysts warn this mismatch could leave a notable strike capability gap that persists well into the 2030s. To soften the transition, the Navy is considering extending the service lives of at least 2 of the SSGNs, USS Ohio and USS Michigan, until sufficient replacements are available. At the same time, Navy leaders have acknowledged that the costs of sustaining high-tempo operations for a prolonged Iran war would be difficult to bear under current budgets.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that we will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.